You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife. Harry has become a right pussy. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Once upon a time, he was Action Harry. Yes, with hands that really gripped. He undertook officer training at Sandhurst. Spent 10 years in the army. Undertook 2 tours of Afghanistan. Worked in Malawi, helping African parks in one of the largest elephant translocation in conservation history. He established the Invictus Games. He undertook Walking with the Wounded expedition to the South Pole. Yes, once upon a time, he was Action Harry. Even with the reservations expressed about what he actually did in Afghanistan, a fair view of it is that he was getting stuck in. He would roll his sleeves up and get amongst the action, particularly when it came to his work in Africa, which, as I've remarked before when analysing Spare, certainly seemed to bring a lot of happiness and contentment for him. People liked him as Action Harry. But now he gets twatted by his big brother and breaks a dog bowl. And he broke my necklace, he did. That nasty brother of mine, I was telling you, he broke my necklace part. He did. He snapped it in 2. And then recently, he's been sat in the back of a taxi, filming like some fucking TikToker. And of course, he gets led everywhere by his handler and her grip of doom. Harry has turned into a right pussy. Now, you don't need to be the professor of knowledge at University College, Oxford, to understand why he has turned into a pussy. Take one errant thrusting ginger chap, penchant for boozy beers and bonkers night spot, enjoys the old ganja and snorting the toot, like shagging in fields. All of a sudden, Ad Spider turns into an emasculated wimp that spends his time staring at paparazzi, filming them, whilst complaining about, he broke my necklace, and falling on dog bowls that apparently broke, and then whinging about it in his autobiography. Oh dear. I should well imagine that those that trained him at Sandhurst thought, well, he was a dimwit, but at least he showed some bravery and gumption. Fuck me, look what he's become. Contrast this with other members of his family. William confronted a gentleman on a bike that was following him and his family, and was firm, but authoritative when he dealt with it. And of course, the best example is the Princess Royal, Anne, who, when there was a failed kidnap attempt and was facing a gun-wielding maniac and was told to leave the car, she told him, not bloody likely. Irrespective of what you might think about members of the royal family, it's certain many of them do have a rod of steel going through them. And we all thought that Harry was of a similar build, particularly given things that he'd done. But it just goes to show what happens when a controlling narcissist comes along. The fact is, the narcissist steals who you are. You are sucked in, and everything that you once were gets put into a box and thrown out of the window. Your humour, your get up and go, your tolerance, your patience, your interest in certain things, your friendships, your hobbies, all of these things are stripped away from you. This is what the narcissist does. Because the narcissist abuses you in lots of different ways, but perhaps one of the biggest abuses that a narcissist will engage in is the eradication of who you are. By controlling you and causing you to have to comply with what we want, we bit by bit eradicate who you actually are, what you were, what makes you tick. All of that is stripped away. This is what happened with Harry. He thinks that he's met his soulmate. He thinks that he's met somebody that cares about him, understands him, recognizes his vulnerabilities and wants to support him. But what he fails to realize is that he's ensnared with a narcissist, and that narcissist has systematically stripped away his personality, laying bare his narcissistic traits of envy, jealousy, argumentativeness, his anger, using his vulnerability against him, but removing all of the things that made him who he was and invariably caused him to be viewed favourably by many people. It also lays bare how pathetic and helpless she has rendered him. It might have been the case that in the past, Harry would, of course, have dealt with the paparazzi by just getting his head down and outrunning them, or in some instances, engaging in a bit of push and shove after he's had too many G&Ts at Bonkers Night Spot. But now what does he do? He cowers in the back of a taxi, filming them like some little mincing turd-like TikToker, hiding behind a phone. He doesn't sit there defiant, ignoring them and thinking, let them take the photographs, what does it matter? He doesn't get out of the cab and say, now look chaps, enough of this nonsense, we just want to get back to where we're staying. You want some photographs? We'll get out of the cab and you can have some photographs of us on the understanding that you will then leave us alone. Agreed? And I'm going to record this agreement, and if you fail to abide by it, I'm going to take action to injunct you to ensure that you're not allowed to use the photographs because you have then breached your side of the agreement. Of course, that might be taking his lack of intelligence to a place where it's not going to be able to reach. But nevertheless, having had such experiences, these matters, understanding the agreements that go on because he comes from this environment, he should be able to, along with the training that he's had, be somewhat more authoritative. He rose to being a captain in the British Army, and as such, he'll have been given a copy of Serve to Lead, which is the British Army's manual of leadership, and he was ought to have read that and digested it. Unfortunately, it would appear that he hasn't, and he brings embarrassment to the officers of the British Army, failing to behave in a commanding and authoritative manner, which would de-escalate such a situation. Once upon a time, he probably could have done so, but now, because of the influence and activity of the spider upon him, it's caused him to have all of these good traits be stripped away, and it's leaving him as a nothingness. This little boy that's exposed as petulant and brat-like as a consequence of the poison that's been fed in his ear, but also rendering him useless and helpless. This works against him, because, of course, Harry's wife can bring up the past and say, you didn't deal with a paparazzi, you're an excuse of a man. And therefore she will devalue him. But she's made him what he is. She's caused him to end up like this. But does he realize? Does he realize that this is where she has placed him? This emasculated, pathetic excuse of an individual who once would get out there and roll his sleeves up and show some gumption and get amongst it all. Probably not. He still believes what she tells him. He still believes that she is his saviour, when in actual fact, she's turned him into a complete pussy. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.